The valley's frozen heart, the San Francisco morning fog curled around the gleaming glass towers of Nexus Technologies as Julian Hargrove reviewed quarterly projections on his tablet. At 37, he'd built a tech empire valued at $11 billion, transforming from the scholarship kid with second-hand clothes to Silicon Valley's most eligible bachelor. His AI platforms revolutionized everything from healthcare to finance. But success had come with a price: isolation wrapped in luxury. "Mr. Hargrove, your helicopter is ready for the Barclay Sustainability Conference," his assistant Vincent announced. Standing at the doorway of Julian's minimalist office, Julian nodded, sliding his tablet into a sleek leather portfolio. "The investors will be watching. Make sure the PR team emphasizes our new energy efficiency metrics." "Already handled, though you should know there's been some criticism of our environmental impact statement from one of the panelists." Julian's expression hardened. "Who?" "Dr. Sophia Winters from Pacific Environmental Research Center. She published a rather scathing analysis of tech industry carbon footprints, with Nexus featured prominently." "Interesting timing," Julian murmured. "Forward me her paper before I land." The helicopter ride offered spectacular views of the Bay Area, but Julian barely noticed. Absorbed in Sophia Winters' research, her methodology was impeccable, her conclusions damning. She wasn't wrong. Nexus server farms consumed enormous energy despite their efficiency improvements. What intrigued him most was her proposed solutions, innovative approaches that might actually work without sacrificing performance. When he entered the auditorium at Berkeley, Julian immediately spotted her on stage, tall with warm brown skin, her dark, curly hair pulled back in a professional twist. Dr. Winters spoke with quiet authority, commanding attention without raising her voice. "Companies like Nexus Technologies promise innovation while using outdated environmental models," she was saying. "Their carbon offset programs are essentially modern-day indulgences, paying to continue harmful practices rather than fundamentally reimagining their approach." The audience murmured. Julian felt a surprising lack of anger. Instead, he was intrigued. When question time came, he approached the microphone. "Julian Hargrove, CEO of Nexus Technologies," he said, causing heads to turn. "Dr. Winters, while your analysis raises valid concerns, you've overlooked our new quantum computing initiative that could reduce server energy requirements by 70%. Would you care to comment?" Sophia's eyes found him instantly, recognition flickering across her features. "Mr. Hargrove, I'm familiar with your quantum initiative. The prototype results are promising, but your current implementation timeline extends 8 years, by which point the cumulative damage will be significant. Technology that might help tomorrow doesn't absolve responsibility today." She wasn't intimidated by him, a novelty in his world of yes-men and sycophants. After the panel, Julian intercepted her in the hallway. "Dr. Winters, I'd like to discuss your recommendations further." She assessed him coolly. "My consulting rates are quite high, Mr. Hargrove. I can afford them," he replied with unexpected humor. "What I can't afford is ignoring viable solutions, regardless of their source." Something shifted in her expression: surprise. Perhaps that he wasn't dismissing her critiques. "Tomorrow, 9 a.m. at my lab," she said finally. "And Mr. Hargrove, leave your entourage behind. I don't have room for them." As she walked away, Julian felt something unfamiliar, a genuine smile forming. For the first time in years, someone was treating him like a person rather than a billionaire, and the sensation was strangely refreshing. Green code. The Pacific Environmental Research Center occupied a renovated warehouse in Oakland, its solar-paneled roof and living wall facade embodying Dr. Winters' philosophy. Julian arrived alone as instructed, dressed in jeans and a simple button-down rather than his usual tailored suit. He found Sophia in her lab, surrounded by complex simulations of server farm heat dissipation patterns. "You're punctual," she noted, gesturing to a stool beside her workstation. "I appreciate that." Over the next 4 hours, Julian witnessed firsthand the brilliant mind behind the critique. Sophia didn't just identify problems, she engineered solutions. Her prototype cooling system used recaptured heat to power auxiliary functions, reducing energy waste by nearly 40%. "This could be integrated into our existing infrastructure within months, not years," Julian realized aloud. "Why hasn't anyone implemented this before?" "Because it requires cooperation between competitors," Sophia explained, tucking a loose curl behind her ear. "The system works best as an ecosystem approach rather than isolated improvements. But Silicon Valley isn't known for sharing innovations." Julian studied her for a moment. What if Nexus made the first move, open-sourced the implementation? Her eyes widened slightly. "What, you do that? If it works, absolutely. Sustainability shouldn't be a competitive advantage, it should be the baseline." Something shifted between them that morning, mutual respect forming a bridge across their ideological divide. One meeting became weekly strategy sessions, then daily collaboration as Nexus funded a joint research initiative dubbed Green Code. Working closely, Julian discovered Sophia's story, raised by environmental activist parents, educated at MIT, declining lucrative corporate offers to pursue research that mattered. She learned about Julian too, his childhood in foster care after losing his parents, how coding became his escape, the loneliness of his meteoric rise. You built walls to protect yourself. Sophia observed one evening as they shared takeout in her lab, surrounded by prototype models. The same way I built arguments to protect the planet. Julian found himself sharing thoughts he'd never voiced aloud. Success was supposed to feel different. More, fulfilling. Because you measure success in acquisitions, not connections, she replied, her candor refreshing. When's the last time you did something purely for joy? The question lingered with him. The following week, he surprised her with tickets to a jazz festival she'd mentioned loving. Watching her sway to the music, face illuminated with genuine pleasure, Julian felt an unfamiliar warmth spreading through his chest. Their collaboration flourished over 3 months, professional boundaries gradually blurring. Julian found himself scheduling meetings around Sophia's schedule rather than expecting her to accommodate his. He called her late at night with ideas that couldn't wait until morning, conversations that drifted from algorithms to favorite books and childhood dreams. The Green Code initiative garnered international attention, attracting investment from competing tech giants. At the project's official launch party, Julian watched Sophia across the room, captivating a group of investors with her passionate explanations. Later, as they stood on the balcony overlooking the bay, she turned to him with uncharacteristic hesitation. "Julian, what are we doing? Revolutionizing tech sustainability?" He replied automatically. "That's not what I mean." Her voice softened. "What are we becoming to each other? Because I'm developing feelings that go beyond professional admiration, and I need to know if I'm walking this path alone." Julian froze, the familiar panic rising as emotional territory loomed, territory where his wealth and intellect offered no advantage. Disconnected. "This was never about personal entanglements," Julian said, his voice unnaturally formal as he stepped back from Sophia. "The Green Code partnership has been valuable, but I think you've misunderstood my intentions. Emotional attachments complicate business relationships. I don't operate that way." The hurt that flashed across Sophia's face was quickly masked by professional composure. "Thank you for the clarity, Mr. Hargrove." The formality of her response, the return to his surname, cut deeper than Julian expected. Within a week, Sophia announced her acceptance of a prestigious research position with the Global Climate Institute in Geneva. She would oversee the implementation of Green Code technology across European tech centers, ensuring the project continued without disruption. At her farewell gathering, Julian maintained a careful distance, watching as colleagues embraced her warmly. When their eyes briefly met across the room, she offered a polite nod before turning away. It was the last time they spoke directly. Over the following months, Julian threw himself into expansion plans. Nexus acquired 3 AI startups, opened offices in Tokyo and Berlin, and doubled its valuation. On paper, Julian Hargrove had never been more successful. Yet his executive suite felt cavernous. He found himself checking the European implementation reports of Green Code first thing each morning, scanning for her name in the documentation. Her methodology remained evident in every aspect of the project. Elegant solutions with unmistakable ethical considerations built into each line of code. "The Time magazine profile is confirmed for next month," Vincent informed him one afternoon. "They're featuring you as the man redefining ethical tech." Julian stared at the preliminary mock-up of the cover. "Cancel it, sir. I didn't redefine anything. Dr. Winters did. Have them feature her instead." "She declined their previous requests," Vincent said hesitantly, "but I can try again." That night, Julian stood at his penthouse window overlooking the city lights. Success had never felt more hollow. He had built an empire that would outlast him, yet he had no one to share it with. For the first time in his life, Julian Hargrove admitted to himself that he had made a terrible mistake, one that his billions couldn't fix. System reboot. The World Technology Summit in London marked 6 months since Sophia's departure. Julian attended primarily because Nexus was receiving an innovation award for Green Code, an achievement he felt belonged, rightfully, to her. During the opening reception, Julian scanned the crowd reflexively, not expecting to find her. Then he saw her, Sophia, radiant in a deep green dress, her curls loose around her shoulders, laughing at something said by the man beside her. "Dr. Marcus Bennett," Vincent supplied, noticing Julian's fixed gaze. "Neurologist and tech ethic. They've been collaborating on neural interface applications for climate modeling." Julian felt an unfamiliar sensation, a sharp, visceral discomfort at seeing her happy in someone else's company. He recognized it belatedly as jealousy, an emotion he'd previously considered beneath him. Throughout the summit, Julian observed them from a distance. Dr. Bennett looked at Sophia the way Julian had carefully avoided looking at her, with open admiration and warmth. They moved in synchrony, finishing each other's sentences during panel discussions, clearly attuned to one another. After accepting the Green Code Award with a speech crediting Sophia as the true visionary behind the initiative, Julian made a decision. He began a quiet transformation, not to win her back, but to become worthy of what she had offered him. He restructured Nexus's leadership to prioritize ethical considerations alongside profit margins. He established anonymous scholarships for foster children pursuing STEM education. Weekly therapy sessions helped him confront the abandonment issues underlying his emotional unavailability. 6 weeks later, Julian attended an environmental conference in Geneva, Sophia's new home base. He didn't approach her directly but ensured she received his proposal for expanding green code to developing nations, with her research center designated as the primary beneficiary of a substantial grant. When they finally encountered each other at a committee meeting, Julian spoke first. "The work you're doing here is remarkable," he said simply. "I'd like to help if you're willing to accept it." Sophia studied him with guarded eyes. "Why the sudden interest in my research again, Julian?" "It's not sudden," he admitted. "I've followed everything you've published, and I've learned some things about myself in the process." Sustainable Connection Spring arrived in Geneva, with Julian's most ambitious project yet, the announcement of the Winters Foundation for Environmental Technology. Endowed with $2 billion in complete operational independence from Nexus. At the foundation's launch event, Julian finally requested a private conversation with Sophia. "You didn't need to name it after me," she said as they walked through the botanical gardens adjacent to the venue. "I did," Julian countered. "Ideas should be attributed to their rightful creators. I've taken enough credit that wasn't mine." Sophia stopped walking. "Is that what this has been about? Clearing your conscience?" Julian faced her directly. "No, it's about becoming the person I should have been when you asked me that question 6 months ago. The person who could have answered honestly instead of hiding behind work and wealth." "And what would that person have said?" Sophia asked, her voice barely audible. "That I was terrified of depending on someone who saw beyond my defenses. That I've spent my life building systems I could control because people relationships aren't programmable. That meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me, and losing you was entirely my fault." Sophia's expression softened slightly. "You haven't lost me, Julian. You're standing right here. But you've moved on. Dr. Bennett seems like a good man." A small smile touched her lips. "Marcus is a colleague and friend who recently got engaged to his partner of 8 years. He helped me understand that what happened between us wasn't my failure." Hope flickered in Julian's chest for the first time in months. "I can't undo my mistakes, Sophia, but I've learned that some things are worth the risk of failure. You're one of them." She studied him thoughtfully. "I don't need grand gestures or foundations. I just needed you to be brave enough to feel something you couldn't control." "I am now," Julian said simply, "if it's not too late." Sophia reached for his hand, her touch sending a current through him more powerful than any technology he'd ever created. "Let's find out," she said. Together, as they walked back toward the foundation event, Julian realized that all his achievements paled beside this one moment of authentic connection. Whether their relationship blossomed into romance again or simply healed into friendship, he had finally learned the lesson that mattered most: that true innovation wasn't building walls to keep pain out, but building bridges strong enough to let someone in.